Hello, everybody. Welcome to Plus One EXP. I am the bodiless, imageless voice of Osir X Franco, cult leader here and your real life stepdad. Plus One is a weird little brand that multi classes in tabletop game design, beard and skincare alchemy, and the Bardic College of Content Creation. The dream and hope here at Plus One is to help amazing designers find great players who love their games and help amazing players find great designers whose games they can love. Today's game in question is one Machine Impossible. We are very excited to have an incredible cast here, and I am going to immediately kick it over to Jacob to intro his game. But I will plug that if you're interested in picking up Machine Impossible, learning more about it, you can check out that link right there in the bottom right, ttrpg.link/Machine Impossible. But without further ado, Jacob, take us away.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm Jacob. I'm one half of Smiling Mythos Games. We're the two-person company that made Machine Impossible and other games that are not out yet, but we're tinkering. This is a game that is near and dear to our hearts. It speaks to what we love about living in cities and what we love about sharing places and community with our best friends in the whole wide world. In addition to be able to get this game at the link below, I'm told that Plus One and Smiling Mythos Games is available at PAX East right now. If for some reason you're at PAX East and also tuning in for this stream, you're an amazing multitasker. Um, uh, but with that out of the way, I'm going to get along to introducing our cast of wonderful players, starting from left to right in the order that I see them in our video conferencing call. Arthur, could you please introduce us, tell us about yourself, and also tell us what's the favorite city that you've ever lived and visited?
Hello, my name is Arthur Wells. I also go by Werewolf online. That's where as in the question, wolf is in the animal. I'm a game designer and actual play performer. And you can find me mostly at Timbo the Wizard's Guild House here on Twitch. But I have been thinking about this one and I'm kind of tied between two, but I'm going to go with my favorite city that I've ever lived in. I lived there for about 6 months. I was in Heredia, Costa Rica, and it's
Wow.
like this really gorgeous city that it is um very it's in a valley, but there's like a lot of building up into the kind of mountain, so it's like very hilly, very it's just a beautiful city filled with green, and there's so many people, and like everyone walks everywhere. It was one of the most lovely times of my life, and um yeah, I just think about it fondly.
Hallmark of an amazing city is the walkability, and you really painted a picture for us there. I can clearly see that city. Moving on, Alex, please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Alex Rabitsky. My pronouns he, they. I am a game designer as well, primarily working through the gauntlet on games like Public Access, The Between. And yeah, I'd say that, well, my favorite city I've ever lived in is New York, which is where I am now. I love New York deeply. But I think my favorite city I've ever visited is Quito in Ecuador. It's been a long time since I've been there, but from what I remember of it, beautiful city, very old city. So you have a layout that is just a labyrinthine sprawl of streets that curve into one another and no real like planning, nestled right in like these foothills, with gorgeous like cathedrals all over the place and some really like beautiful like old stonework throughout the city.
That's amazing. Part and parcel with having a walkable city is having a city that you can get comfortably lost in. And it sounds like that is a city that you can get kind of like, wait, where the hell am I? Oh my God, this tiny shop that I would never have found unless I had gotten lost. Amazing. Uh, Billy, bring us home.
Yeah, I'm Billy, he, him. I do a lot of stuff pertaining to the Gauntlet. Don't work for them or anything like that. I play a lot of their games, played on a lot of actual plays with a lot of great people. As far, man, I am not as worldly as the rest of you seem to be. I got to tell you. I'm from Oregon. Right now I live in Washington, right in Vancouver, so right over the border. I have to say this place is probably my favorite because my grandmother lived here. I was super close to my grandmother. And she kind of made Vancouver what it was for me. And now that it's just pure happenstance. I happened to move up here a couple of years ago, and I've loved it ever since, just for some family reasons, I suppose.
That's amazing. We're about to play a game that's a lot about community, so I love that answer. As for me, part of the reason why me and my co-designer Billy Eline worked on this game together, but I kind of pitched the idea to him after having lived in Seattle for a while and really missing Chicago, the city that I've lived the most of my life in. But I was born in New York, and I think I have to say that right around now, my answer changes sometimes, but right around now, New York is still my favorite city. There, maybe it's just because I watch a lot of Dimension 20, and they're doing like a whole thing about, oh, we sold out Madison Square Garden, and it is an amazing city, and you feel energy when you're in New York that you don't feel in other cities. So that's going to be my favorite city. And the reason why I ask that question is because this game that we're about to play is a game about being in love with the city that you live in. In fact, that's how we start off all of our communications online about this game. That's how we start off the book. We say, you're in love with this city. Despite the crime, despite the inequality, despite the corruption, you still love this place. There's beauty here that the powers that be haven't been able to snuff out yet, and they never will, because every time they try, you stop them. You and your crew have the brains, the brawn, and most of all, the heart it takes to keep throwing wrenches into the plans of the rich and powerful, trying their best to own everything. This is Machine Impossible, the tabletop role-playing game about cyberpunk super spies putting everything on the line to save the city they love from the corrupt, greedy, and cruel organizations hell-bent on ruining it. In this actual play, we're going to separate it into two parts. This first part is going to be building this city that we're in love with collaboratively. And then the next part, that's going to be next week, the same time, is going to be us actually playing through a mission. This is a spy-fi game with elements of cyberpunk in it, or maybe it's a cyberpunk game with elements of spy-fi in it. Your mileage may vary. It's up to what you think as you play. But one of the things that we wanted at Smiling Mythos Games to prioritize in the development of this game is accessibility. And one of the things that we love about playing tabletop role-playing games is getting on the same page about what you want from the experience. People who are really into the community, people who do a lot of time thinking about TTRPGs, know this as a session zero. But not every play group is super well versed at what makes a good session zero, what makes a bad session zero. So we decided that we would just build that into the game. So what you're going to see us do is we're going to go through the questionnaire that comes with the game. It's going to walk us through questions. It's going to build our city. Then we're going to build our crew. And then lastly, we're going to build our characters. And the amount of time that's spent actually like allocating points in the system is going to be like 10 minutes. And we're going to spend like an hour and a half building our city. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. How about it? You guys excited?
Oh,
Hell
yeah.
yeah.
Fantastic. So we're going to if you watching the stream are happen to own the PDF, we're going to book page 10, PDF page 9. If you don't have the PDF, much more likely you can go to Machine Impossible on itch.io. Our preview pages actually have the questions that we're going to be answering, but also it's going to be right here in front of us on the stream. Very helpful. So there's a couple of notes that I want to go over before we jump into the questions. The first note is one that we've already gone over on the stream, that this is about getting on the same page. it doesn't matter if we answer all of these questions or not, as long as we have a city at the end of the day that we all understand, we all see the same thing when we imagine it in our heads, and we love it, and we know what kind of experience we're getting into. Going along with that, we're allowed to leave holes. We might not answer every question all the way during this stream. That's because world building is really complex. Every question you answer raises 2 more questions, which is fun for me. Sometimes it can be really overwhelming. Sometimes you get into a rabbit hole of a rabbit hole of a rabbit hole, and you're like, wait, stop everything. We haven't talked about taxes yet. It's okay if we don't answer those kinds of questions. We can go on, and sometimes the best answers to those questions come to us during play. So that is fine if we leave holes. And the last point here is the reason why I started off by asking us, what's your favorite city that you've ever lived in? This is a city that we love despite its problems. Our city can't be a total utopia. The game won't work because we're going to have these evil organizations that are at the edge of claiming the city for their own. How does that happen in a utopia? We also can't go the other direction. We can't have a total dystopia either, because if that were true, then all hope would be lost, and it'd be hard to justify why our characters are so dead set on defending this city. So we're looking for a place somewhere in the middle. And for inspiration, we should be thinking about all the places we've ever lived, all the things that we adored about them, and all the things that we wish that we could change. That last sentence, by the way, is one of my favorite sentences in the book, because it's something that one of our playtesters said about the game. And I was just like, all right, yoink, that is going in the book. Thank you very, very much. So without further ado, actually, one more point of ado. We can make as wild a city as we want to, as long as the following things are true. We live in a society where everybody, or almost everybody, is a cyborg. They are an organic being with mechanical parts in them, or an analog to that. Also, we do have the internet, or again, an analog to that. I had a playtest group make a completely non-technological Yggdrasil tree city, where our cybernetic modifications were biological plants that you grafted into your wood body, and there was like a mycorrhizal network that you could tap into, and that was the internet. And they banged this out in like 10 minutes, and I was like, you can go home now. You can go home now. I don't want to play with you anymore. You're too good at this game. All that to say, we can truly get really wacky and really wild if we want to, as long as we have people who are cyborgs, and that is the majority of the city, and we have some kind of internet, or the net as we call it in the book. Does that all sound good? Cool. So we're going to jump to our first question. These questions are going to start really general and kind of amorphous, and then we're going to get into like the brass tacks as we get towards questions 6 and 7. Our first question is, what environment is our city in? This is the exterior environment, the biome. This could be like a mountain city, a desert city, a jungle city. Those are like more realistic answers to this question. Or we can go fantastic, like underwater city, outer space city, or cyberspace city. This can be anything that you can think of. If anybody has anything that's jumping out to them right off the top of their brain, go ahead and speak up.
Yeah, I'll just throw out there for consideration. Mostly because I mentioned, Quito, but also because I grew up in the Rockies at one point. I'm really into the idea of like, really sizable mountains that like a city is like nestled in, and like the way that like a city develops around territory it can't like reasonably conform to.
Yeah.
Something like that. That's just an idea, but mountains are pretty fun.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Mountains are fun. What are you gonna do? Mountains are fun.
Mountains are fun. Visit our city. The mountains are fun.
The mountains are just so fun.
The just like in improv, often the name of the game with this world building exercise is match the energy of the person who's got an idea. We have this gift of mountain. Let's run with it. Mountain is our environment. Lovely. On to question 2. What does our city look like? How would you describe its aesthetic? How would you describe its vibe? We could say retro futuristic. We could say biotech. We could say steampunk. We could say shining in chrome, marble and granite. We had a one shot where the aesthetic was solar punk. It was wood paneled 70s solar punk. So we want an aesthetic that is going to be super clear as soon as we hear it, and also something that only we could come up with. So again, if anybody has something popping off the top of their dome, please shout it out.
Oh, I really like the idea of 70s something. I like the funk idea.
Cool.
I don't know if like 70s biotech, what the hell would that look like? I wonder what that would be like.
That's an evocative question. I'm into it. Hold on.
Yeah.
So
70s
70s biotech. What does that mean?
So biotech, this doesn't have to be what biotech means to us, but what biotech means to Billy and I is the Yuzon Vong from Star Wars. It's like there's an app for that, but the app has a face and is an animal. Like technically, this would under this umbrella would include Flintstones, where it's like, yeah, my telephone is a bird, or like, or it could also be like the Zerg from StarCraft is like, yeah, my telephone is an organ that we grew to do telephone things. Like, it's organic and squishy, but that doesn't have to be what biotech means for us, because I don't know how you meld that with 70s.
I'm definitely into this like 70s vibe for sure, because like, and this is like getting into like the minutia of aesthetic or something about like the way that like, you know, the shag carpeting and the cigarette smell that just gets into everything.
The shag carpeting is 100% like living cilia, right?
Cilia.
Like
Oh,
it's
there's a book I read a while ago called You Sexy Thing by Kat Rambo, which is like the Great British Bake Off meets Farscape. It's like, and it has like there's a living ship called I think it's just called You Sexy Thing is the name of the ship, but
amazing.
it's an organic ship that
Yeah.
like, so it's like a living like bio like organic ship, and something like that's kind of coming to mind.
100%, 100% like living ships are biotech. Like the Binti trilogy from oh my God, I would feel terrible that I'm not going to try to pronounce that author's name, or I'll mangle it. But they have a living ship in that one, I believe. I'm still interested to hear like how we melt like the shag carpeting being cilia is just like right. It's just that's just like low hanging fruit. But like I guess is this like what do buildings look like in 70s biotech? Arthur, do you have any ideas?
Um, I hear like 70s biotech, and I'm kind of thinking like it makes me think of all those really gorgeous like screen printed like music festival posters, like really organic
Ooh.
shapes and like the like psychedelic colors,
Mhm.
and like it's not necessarily Art Nouveau, but it is very round. It's very like
Organic
um
shapes, lots
yeah.
of like um yellows and browns and purples and greens and blues.
And maybe like the way those buildings are made is it's almost like a coral kind of organism, and that's why they're sort of organically shaped, is because these buildings are kind of growing just sort
Oh,
of
that's
I
naturally
really
love
like
it.
that.
cool.
I love it. Got it. Got it. That gives me a really solid sense of like 70s. It's not 70s station wagons. It's not 70s suburbia. It's 70s music music posters, music festival posters.
Although I do really like that idea of like where you get like the crossover, like you said, the cilia carpet, but also like I'm picturing those old boxy wood paneled like TVs out of the 70s, and the idea of like where, and you know, even more biotech side of like where like the technology and the like the actual like organic aspects of it begin to blend. Like I don't know if it's like, oh, have we melded technology with something that's already grown, or does it like is like a television in this case like some sort of like sclera like projection thing on a wall?
But that makes so much sense.
You know?
Like it's that's why it has the convex screen, is that it is actually an eyeball that you were looking into.
Oh, that's both disturbing and really
squishy.
Cool. I don't think any television should be squishy. No.
Yeah.
Too bad. Too bad.
Okay.
You got biotech, you got squishy screens.
We got squishy screens.
Cool. We have a lot of specifics that are super evocative. I feel like we have an aesthetic that is distinct. We definitely don't have all of the specifics filled out, but this is where we're going to leave holes and find things out through play. I think that we have a really clear aesthetic though now. And we've even started to talk about technology, which is, well, actually, technology is not our next question. Our next question is how, oh no, I dyslexic, I guess. Technology is our next question. So our next question is, how high tech is our city? The important thing here is to establish like the upper boundaries of certain things, like how you move around the city and how enemies will attack. Do flying cars exist, for instance? What do they look like? Does teleportation exist? What does that look like? When somebody pulls out a gun, does it shoot a laser beam or does it shoot a bullet? Or is there a sign of other weird weapon?
Could I pitch you on the idea of maybe not flying cars, but moving walkways everywhere? Of
Moving
like
walkways.
moving around this mountain that's just like assisted walking, essentially. Like
Gotcha. How would one get? I want to run with this. How would one get like all the way across the town?
Well, if I could also sell you on something flying, because I love the idea of like moving walkways, but also again, because I'm thinking of like Farscape now, where they have those little like shuttle pods that are also technically like little living offspring. The concept of like these like organic hybrid like shuttles, because you know how like in like the recent Dune movies, the way that they do like the thopters is almost like dragonfly like. The idea of like something that can just like get you from one end to the other. They're not necessarily like flying cars in the way of like they would be like, they don't have like a pilot. I think like it's all like it's more like a tram / taxi service, if anything.
Sure. Like a drone.
Like a drone. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So moving walkways and drones can both work. I like the idea of like, do we think it's like an animal? It's living, but is it a living machine or is it like an animal that like opens its mouth and you climb in?
For me personally, I think there's actually a really interesting like little world building detail there where it's like if we had once regarded them as animals, like the modern society has largely stripped that identity away and just kind of refers to them as machines, even if they are actual like creatures.
I like that. I think that now that you have said that, the answer has to be that we would call it a creature, but they call it a machine. So I'm gonna say that like just because I'm looking at 70s music festival posters right now, and one of them has like a butterfly and like a bee on it, I'm gonna say that you can absolutely call down like a moth or a butterfly and like climb onto it and it'll carry you away.
There's a really great give me a sec. I'll find a picture to share with you guys. There's a book series called Abarat by Clive Barker, where he has this like giant moth transport thing. And I'm seeing if I can find a picture.
That sounds awesome.
It feels so up that alley.
I am really intrigued by like the concept of guns. I'm just not sure if it's just like played straight, or if there's something it's like something technologically, particular about it.
Yeah, like
There,
are you going to be in this big city and then you just have like a regular gun? It's got to be something else, right? Like it's got to be a little bit different than that.
it doesn't
Right?
have to be. Like honestly, like guns, it is kind of funny to be like, oh, we're in this crazy biotech future and a Glock, but we can also go bigger if we want to.
Like, I mean, again, I feel like there's something really interesting in the way that like organizations and people like in capitalistic interests might take like something and exploit it to develop like weaponry that is more like taking something like and then turning it into what we would visually identify as just like, oh, that's just a gun. But I could also see like if like for like a unique weapon, the idea of like almost like those like cattle like this like the slaughterhouse like bolt gun kind of things where it's not like
The
ammunition.
pithing needle.
Yeah, the pithing needle. Yeah. That's also just an idea that like that would, I don't know, like that jumps out at me, but
Well, it's the weapon that Anton Chigurh uses in a very popular movie, No Country for Old Men.
Yes.
It's a super brutal way to go about your business as an assassin. um, so it sounds like they probably have something that works like a conventional gun, but maybe it's got some extra zhuzh on it, and it is a little bit more like organic, a little bit more gooey. But
Yeah.
it is a weapon that is shaped like a gun and acts like a gun for all intents and purposes.
How do y'all feel about just the overall concept that like in terms of like technology, like whatever it is, it must be like derived from like the bio, like it has to be like hacked or derived from it. So it's like any innovations, like as you were talking about just now with like gun analog, it's like, yes, but all these technological developments must be like taken and modified from like the sort of organic biotech components. Like it's not like you can add new technology onto it already. It's like you have to derive it from the other.
I think that is, if I'm hearing you right, it's like we don't have a metal casing. We developed a casing that is not an animal, but it is made of bone or keratin, and it shoots like spines. It's the Needler from Halo.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, that was the first thought that I had when we were like, what do guns look like here? I was like, it's got to be some kind of spine shooter.
You have to reload it with like
absolutely that's
to reload it with like keratin or something like that. Like it's like a
wow.
Yeah, some kind
it
of
like grows the needles that you shoot.
Nice. Yes. Cool. All right. That is our tech level question done. We already have some really specific visuals and really specific, like we know what happens when two mob thugs creep up behind you in a dark alley. They take out their needle guns and they shoot keratin at you. Our next question is about the denizens of this city. Are we humans? Are we aliens? Are we fish people? Are we, instead of cyborgs, are we like androids? Are we a mix of these? Yeah, does anybody have any strong opinions one way or another? If nobody has any strong opinions one way or another, I think the easiest thing to do here, because usually there are not a lot of things that are dependent on this question, is just to say that we're humans, and if somebody has an idea later on, it's like, oh, can my character be we can just say yes. We'll be humans for the time being as a nice default. And if somebody's like, actually, I'd love to be a walking slab of I don't know, see an enemy or something like that, we can make that be a thing.
Well, it is interesting to have us be humans, and the sort of paradigm we've set up are the parts we're installing are kind of either directly or derived from other creatures, which is like wild.
Yeah. I mean, there's something cool to that about like how do we master our environment as the human race, and or we can be non-human characters who are doing this. Okay, so our next question is, what are the dimensions of our city? So when we close our eyes and imagine the city, do we all have the same sense of scale? Is this city roughly the size of cities that exist today, or is it like this city from Blade Runner, which is like fantastically wide? It's like LA sprawl times 100. And maybe most importantly, what did the boundaries of our city look like? We know that it's in the mountains, and we have these different buildings in the valleys and the nooks and the crannies in between the mountains that we haven't been able to bulldoze. But what did the boundaries of this city look like?
One thing I was thinking about was with mountain, like it makes me think of the Warhammer like hive cities, where it's like literally just a whole mountain made out of city.
Oh, interesting. Is that
Oh, like, oh, go ahead, please.
well, I was just going to say, does that fit the image that we had before of a mountain city, or do we want it to be a city
Sure.
that is like curving around the mountain?
I like the idea of like curving around the mountain, but like in the same way that, especially very 70s of like terrain being somewhat slowly commodified. The idea that like the mount like one of the mountains is curving around, or even a couple of them, like is beginning to show signs of like development like that, but it's very like early. I'm also like really just feeling this like truly like the valley kind of thing where it's like it occupies this space, and it's growing upward. I also like think like it might be like really deep. Like there might be like roots of a like real like subsurface levels that go deeper and deeper down, like into like sort of the depths of wherever it grows up from.
Cool. Yeah, I definitely like the idea of because we're in such an organic kind of mind space. I like the idea of like the boundaries of the city look like what you would see if you dropped a bunch of gack in the crevices of this mountain range. And then we can get both Alex's idea and Arthur's idea of like there's tunnels going down, and then there's also people who are like honeycombing into the mountainside. Billy, do you have anything you want to add?
No, that's kind of where my brain was playing too. I was imagining the city itself is trying to like very slowly, kind of touching on what Alex said, kind of expand up this mountain. Like the organic part of the city is trying to grow, and we're seeing the first signs of that on the fringe, on the edges of the mountain.
Got you.
That's such a cool idea that like there were maybe parameters for how buildings were being grown, and then they kind of just keep growing. Like urban sprawl as a natural thing happening.
You said the buildings keep growing, which is something that we haven't talked about. Are the buildings growing themselves? Is that what you're saying? I like that.
I mean,
I kind of
in a
love
world
that.
of excess, right? That's kind
Yeah.
of like, humans push what they have too far. Life finds a way, all that good stuff.
Okay, cool. Um, Buildings autonomously grow, which that can't cause problems.
No.
Um, I'm sorry. My building, he's not housebroken yet. Okay. So the boundaries of this city are, I assume, just it goes into the mountain. There's not like a wall to the city, right? It's what it sounds like.
Although now that we're talking about it, like I kind of like I see this like freaky concept of like there's like a point of the city, because like I don't know what's going on with the land here, but there's some growth, but like there's a point where it's like, and this part, it all just kind of grows like cancerous and malignant and wrong, so that like they have like the like gougers at the fringes to keep like the to keep like scraping off the terrain to just keep this section on the outsides like from
Oh,
growing.
wow.
Whoa.
I didn't even consider that there are people who are like, that's enough. Like I really like that. I really like the idea of there being people whose job it is to like, because it's like the Zerg creep almost. It's like, well, there's all this like fleshy membrane that is like the grass before the trees come in, but instead of grass and trees, it's like hovels and then buildings and then skyscrapers. And we we actually need there to be some order. And yeah, we're pruning the city. Amazing. I love that. Um, so let's go in and say that there are pruners constantly cutting away new growth to keep the city contained. The city almost. This is a game where we want the city to take on a kind of a sense of a character of its own. Never more so than this city. Never more than this city. Okay, so our next question is a really big one. It is the resource that this city cares the most about. We're going to define a resource other than money that people in our city struggle to get. This can be a everyday necessity like fuel or water or medicine, and it's just so scarce that everybody needs it all the time. The example city in the book uses water. It's a city in a desert. Water is super important. If you have enough water, you can actually trade water as if it were money. And obviously, there's a reason why you need water to survive. We could also go in a more fantastical direction where the resource is something that if you even have a little bit of it, it transforms your life. You become much more powerful. This could be like an indestructible metal. Interdimensional kaiju guts a la Pacific Rim, or technology from a bygone age. Once we have our resource, we have to decide how it works and why people want it so badly. So does anybody have any ideas that are jumping out of their head?
I had one that jumped out, and I cannot stress this enough. Like, I don't want to run away with this one, so please, like, feel free to throw other ones out there. I had the idea of like a sort of like effectively like what is a biomedicine called like Gestalt, which literally it's like the longer you reside in this city, like especially in those lower levels, it's like in engaging with the technology, you can become like subsumed into like the mass. And like there's like this sort of like anti, it's like on icositol, like an anti-cancer med type thing that keeps you from like effectively flesh melding into other parts of the city just by like proxy of exposure.
It keeps you from going full Cronenberg.
It keeps you from full Cronenberg. So like the idea of like, just imagine like an impoverished like slum, and like or like an alleyway where you don't have like people who who got their doses of like enough doses of Gestalt, and now you just have like people kind of like half merge into the wall, just being like, "Hey, Bill, how you doing?"
Yeah, like Davy Jones's crew in Pirates of the Caribbean. I know that you said let's not run away with this, but we're gonna run away with that. I'm sorry. Arthur, Billy, are you okay with that? Is that
the second Cronenberg is mentioned, I am more than
absolutely
okay with whatever goes on.
You don't want to go full Videodrome. It's like, yeah, you gotta.
It's like, yeah, I need to. I want to say that. Important to when people are running Machine Impossible, it's important that your resource be something that is heistable, something that is grabbable. So I want to say that, Gestalt comes in many forms. Like you could get a syringe of it. Does that sound cool? You get like an EpiPen of it. Does that sound cool?
Yeah, I'm into that. Yeah.
Cool. We could delve a little bit more into how it works. I love that it hooks into this theme that we've found of the city's actually something that we kind of need to rein in. And it's this, I mean, like, I have to imagine that housing is not hard to come by in this city because it just grows.
I tell you what, though, they raise the rent over time.
Well,
the house won't stop growing.
You don't want to be in a place that is too like new, right? Like this new growth probably grow, the newer parts of the city probably growing really fast, and you don't want to be on the edges of the city because you don't want to need more doses of Gestalt to live.
I just had like a Rorschach-esque voice whisper in my head, saying like, this city is sick and we are the virus, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. And yeah, what Arthur just put into the Zoom chat click makes what Billy just said click, that like as your building gets larger, the rent goes up. Is like, it's nothing is
Oh.
controlled. Nothing is controlled, least of all
It's
rent.
So you have like the medical grade Gestalt for people, but there's also like construction
Rent
based
control.
Gestalt.
Yeah.
Like, well, it's just like it's like you
Oh.
have growth stabilizers for architecture, and it's basically the same thing, but it's like one's meant for buildings and technology, others like there's one for humans. Like,
right, because you don't want your building to get a skin disease or to like develop a blade arm that starts hacking away at people. You're like, that we should really like tamp that down.
Yeah, the HOA will be very unhappy if
Oh my
the blade
God.
arm shows up.
The HOA is like, you're not allowed to have more than 3 sclera eyeball socket. Your building isn't allowed to have more than 3 oculi. Amazing. Phenomenal. And it's obvious why people want it. It sounds like, number one, you need it to live. Number two, you need it to develop like if you are an organization that owns property. Owning property, a really dicey subject in this city, probably. It's like, I own this. It grew off of my building had a baby, and I own the building, so I own the baby. It's like, well, this is really weird. When you say that your building had a baby, I don't really like that.
I actually got a cut-in for my parents' building,
right.
and
I'm a self-made billionaire.
I was I was just so lucky. They had a penthouse. They were able to move off to a
if
new
your
property
grows into my property, is there like, can I claim like it's an ingrown clause of like, it's like,
jeez, yeah, there's so much.
Yeah.
And remember, we're hitting the biotech super hard, but don't forget, this is all like in a 70s music festival, big like circles within circles,
Lots of
quasi Art
colors.
Nouveau kind of thing, lots of colors, psychedelia. So you're tripping as you're trying to explain to your neighbor that like, actually no.
And just like the idea of like flesh growth architecture. I know we're like deviating from the question a little bit here, but like to bring it back to like the 70s aspect, like it's not like it's not like pink flesh and like white bone. I love the idea of like flesh that grows in like stratas of color, or just like, or we're not even saying necessarily like flesh. I like what Arthur said earlier about like the coral kind of like analog. Yeah. So it's just like this kind of like organic thing that we don't have an analog for really here other than to say coral, but like the idea that it grows with these colorful swirling shapes and stratas, all very much like the membranous like sections of like a butterfly's wings. Like,
that's really good. Yeah. Basically, it's like if you've ever seen the movie Annihilation and went, this looks good, I'll build here.
We built in the zone. Yeah.
We built in the zone. It's totally fine. Cool. Amazing. I love this resource. Brief pullback of the curtain. A group of friends of mine built a city that is also biotech, and also has the resource be like an agent that controls growth. And still, these cities are very different. Their resource doesn't work the same way as ours does. Phenomenal. Okay. We've answered this question very thoroughly, which is great, because the next thing that we have to do, an equally important question, is define who our villainous factions are. we're going to make 3 villainous factions. This is one of the things that I've always had to cut it down for time, but we're devoting this entire session to just city building. We get to be 3 villainous factions. If we have a 4th one and that we're just dying to include, there's nothing saying that we have to stop at 3, but for each of them, we have to define who they are, why they want the resource so badly, and specifically within that, what separate, different from the others, awful fate will befall the city if they are not kept in check. So this could be anything from a good old-fashioned mafia to a governmental body that's up to no good, to a megacorp like you would see in Cyberpunk Red, or a rival spy faction. Spy-Fi loves having rival spy factions come out and harry the flanks of our protagonists. So does anybody have one off the top of their heads?
I mean, first thing that pops into my head is a cult, some kind of cult that is about, they want the Gestalt so they can take it away, because obviously we're supposed to be a part of this place.
What if they're like Cenobites, like in terms of like the visual aesthetic?
I have such sights to show you. Yes.
I was absolutely thinking literally the same exact thing, Billy. I was like, I would love a group
Whoa.
that is like,
I was
we
also
want
thinking
this
the
so
exact same thing. I didn't
no
want to say
one
it.
can have it. Yeah.
It's just right there. Right?
Wild wavelength, amazing.
Mhm.
I have not seen Hellraiser, but those are the Hellraiser demons, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
lot decked out in black, lots of like self mutilation, and obviously they are not stationary. They haven't completely subsumed by the city, but they kind of look like they're of the city. They've got like coral coming out, really like the Davy Jones.
They really start to look
crew.
like like the Davy Jones crew, but also like very H.R. Geiger, I imagine, like sort of kind of like designs where that like where flesh meets tech and all that. Yeah.
Amazing. They want to deprive, this is where like we start paying dividends on spending more time in that resource thing, because we don't just have Gestalt for people, we've got Gestalt for buildings. So if they start depriving a building in the center of an otherwise stable neighborhood of Gestalt, what does that do? Imagine if you had one building downtown that just starting to grow extra arms and eyes and feet. That's horrifying.
This
I
sort
love
of
that.
like entropic hyper growth. Yeah, like
Yes.
we have this big unanswered question, and unanswered questions are good. We love holes in world building, but like of like the fringes where like you have these like pruning and like where the flesh is like getting cancerous or malignant and just grows wrong. But it, like the question is okay, like why is that a thing? And that feels like one of those really good intersection points where it's like, so is that something that they utilize as well, or that they're and I'm not looking to answer that question. It's just like definitely like cool little open areas to play around with that. I really like the idea of a flesh cult.
I want to say that the cult believes that someday the city will just be one big animal, and they want the cancerous growths to flourish, and they want mutations to happen faster and faster and faster until we all Cronenberg out and or Junji Ito out.
I wanted to pitch the name just the one.
Ooh,
yeah.
And like maybe a cool thing about
it.
them is like mechanically they're really into signal mode, and so they're just kind of like constantly sort of data transferring to each other, that kind of thing.
I love it.
Oh god, I'm getting like the disgusting like meat hacking stuff of like instead of wires you have like
Oh yes,
yeah
signal mode. I will say that if something's analog is a machine, it will be chisel mode. If something's analog as a person, it will be signal mode. So Arthur, you might be thinking chisel mode more than signal mode. For people who are listening to the stream, we have different cyborg modes that we'll get into at the end of this, and they're broken out into categories. We have 2 modes devoted to hacking. chisel mode is into hacking objects. Chisel mode is into hacking into databases, learning information, hacking into commuter trains, and like doing some real watchdogs type crap of like stopping a train in its tracks. Which in a city where that is an animal, I have had somebody hack the floor and have a mouth open up and eat people. I'm totally all down for that.
Yes. The One. It's so
One.
ominous. I love it.
I love it. The One is a cult that wants the Gestalt so that they can take it away. They give us Cenobite vibes, very H.R. Geiger, Junji Ito. I'm also going to say here, they're like the Phyrexians from Magic the Gathering. Because they literally, Phyrexians are like all will be one.
Yeah.
Cool.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's great.
All right, 1 down, 2 to go. No pressure. You just have to follow that amazing villainous faction.
I took the easy one, so it's on you guys.
I'll throw out there. I mean, like I have very little idea here, so we'll start. I think we do need to focus on one that is very much a corporation because again, we have like the 70s like cool aesthetics and all that, but especially like I love a good old like 70s like capitalistic sort of like venture company. And I don't know if they're like manufacturers of Gestalt. I don't think necessarily everything has to fully revolve around Gestalt in terms of like these guys make it, but like I think having some sort of like high piece of the pie kind of group, right? Like involved in this city.
Oh, you brought up a question that we haven't answered that I think we do have to answer, which is like, where does Gestalt come from? One option is that it is made. I think that at the top of this, we don't have to answer this super detailed, but at the top of this, we have I think a really obvious choice. Gestalt, though it curtails the growth of the city, Gestalt is in some way derived from the city. That's one way we could go. B, it is not. It is completely synthetic and grown from a lab or something like that, or it is something that we get from someplace else. So does anybody have an opinion one way or another, A or B? Is Gestalt somehow of the city, or is Gestalt somehow of outside the city?
I was thinking maybe it's derived from the oldest parts of the city, so it's like that's the DNA before it started to go rampant, and so like having that kind of original DNA sort of is what's stabilizing it.
That makes
but of
me
course
think
they could also just as well say like on the like to like public knowledge in the universe, it could be manufactured, it's in, but like, and that's not a known thing. Possibly that's an idea.
I like that. Arthur, I want to push your idea farther and say that like the oldest parts of the city, like people in cities today talk about the bones of the city. I want to say that the oldest parts of the city have like Gestalt is something that you get from the marrow. And which means that if you're part of the One, you can be harvesting bad Gestalt. If you go into the bones of like cancerous parts of the city, you can start taking DNA from places that are like not okay to copy.
When we were saying, and this is like such like a, you know, we're gonna get into like locations later, I'll just throw like a visual out there for everyone. When you said like literally the bones of the city, like I'm imagining deep underground, almost megalithic cavernous bone spaces, you know?
Yeah.
Like
you're like, how did we get down here? Well, we rappelled down a tendon.
Yeah.
We're getting into like serious. There's this one game that's like, it's a TTRPG that it takes place inside of like, you like hike a hellmouth like flesh crater in like,
is it the Mystery Flesh Pit National Park?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're getting into
a little bit
Mystery Flesh Pit territory. Sarah points out a really good point. We're approaching the hour mark. Are we cool with I think that we finish our enemy factions and then we take a break.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. Okay. So we've answered where Gestalt comes from the bones of the city, harvested from marrow. You can harvest Gestalt from younger parts of the city, but you will get like weirder results.
What
So-
if this like corporation thing idea
Yeah.
is like whatever the early history of humanity's arrival in the city might look like, the concept of like groups that would have like explored and charted territory. I don't necessarily even want to go fully into the answers of like how humanity got here, but the concept of like, oh, imagine like you're just originally sort of like an expeditious group, but over time, because of like your control over this place, you end up just becoming essentially like a pharmaceuticals corporation, just by proxy of like you understand the nature of the beast most. You know, it's
Nice.
like you understand the flesh. But I don't know like what their like whole other deal might be. Because like, and I know you mentioned like it has to be like if they got it their way, it would be detrimental to the city. So I'm trying to think of like what makes them like fully villainous.
So I think that something that a playtester did that I think is super smart, and if we hadn't been if the game hadn't already shipped by then, I would have incorporated this straight into the rules of the game. It's nice to have your villainous faction want to do something different with the resource each time. So the one wants to hoard, deny, destroy Gestalt, or use Gestalt improperly. This probably wants to, bogart it. They want to lay claim to more of the city, right? They have they want their buildings to be making babies, right? So does that sound like in line with what a megacorp's kind of MO would be?
Definitely like I feel it. There's this little bit in the back of my brain where I'm like, there's something here.
Yeah, there's something missing.
There's something here.
We haven't cracked it yet.
We could totally touch on like what the third one might look like while we're thinking about this.
Before we move on, just because it might shake some things loose, as a name, you were talking about like they might be like an expeditionary group. I was thinking about like, are they called like groundbreakers, or are they called like if they're a megacorp, they should probably sound a little bit more corporate, right? Like
what about, well, actually I was saying expedition group, like I also like the idea of like a mining company, because literally if you're mining things, so like the Traxon mining group or the Traxon mining corp, it's just random name that popped in my head, but like something like, name here, the corporate terminology.
Sure, yeah. Is that do you want that to be the megacorp? The megacorp, like what they own is like all the mining rights to.
Well, I feel like if in a city that's constantly like, a city that is literally growing and like you're pruning it, technically everything's mining at that point, because it's like,
that's true. You're like,
it's like, yeah. Or like,
well, we know that this place, we know that if this is a faction that's been around kind of since the beginning, then they are people that have property ownership of the oldest parts of the city. They have the easiest access to Gestalt. So what does that mean for them? It means that most of their buildings are stable. It means that most of their buildings are very close genetically to each other. It means that all of their employees have really easy access to Gestalt.
And it means that they can loophole deny other companies or people access to this thing that they need, so they can put the brakes.
What if they are the
HOA?
HOA?
I was gonna say HOA.
G,
This is
HOA.
like, it's getting into like, and please feel free to tell me if this is not the vibe, but it almost gets like into like borderline like eugenics mindset, right? Where it's just like, oh, you've developed this mutation. I'm afraid we don't want to stabilize that with, you're not, we don't want to stabilize you with your with Gestalt because company policy and blah, 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 blah. It's like HOA. Yeah.
As long as this does not cross a line for anybody, we can have a faction that is absolutely a megacorp that's like a fascist HOA that's like either on the order of buildings or on the order of people. It's like we don't want this DNA in the pool, so we're actually gonna kick you out of this neighborhood or something like that. Obviously, super harsh faction, very dark in theme, so we shouldn't tread blindly here. But it is absolutely an angle that is uniquely available to us because of how we've built the city, which makes it appealing.
I will say, just because I'm really interested to hear what Arthur and Billy think. I actually love that you said the fascist HOA thing. If we lean more in the direction of like it being like a structural kind of control, well, that also works really well because of the concept of like if buildings change and all that, and it's like, oh, this property has illicitly transformed outside of our standards of conduct. You're losing your home because we need to prune it.
We need to prune it,
like,
or like your building is too close to ours. Like your building is infringing on our building's like intellectual property.
We could call it red line because they're like gerrymandering, they're redlining, they're the HOA.
The red
and
line,
it's sort of corpo-y.
Yeah, I'm thinking just to make it even more corporate. I'm like red line. There's a word that's missing in the middle. Interests group of like where it's like some kind of like I don't think it's like architectural, but or maybe like property development. I don't know. I just love that. I don't know.
A red line realty group. A red line realty holdings.
Development is great.
Red line, yeah, property management group or property development. So that's great.
I like redline property management because it's like it's kind of like a no shit. Yeah, like everybody is in the business of property management. I'm in the business of managing that I don't become part of
my
the city. Yeah. So Redline Property Management, a megacorp that came from the original people who led the expedition to the city. They're the fascist HOA. They own a lot of the oldest buildings.
And that would explain why they're in charge of like the pruning teams, because it's like they have the standards. Like we need to kibosh that on the outskirts, and they're very powerful in that way.
Cool. Third faction, if anybody has one, we have a cult. We have a megacorp. What's an interesting sort of thing that goes perpendicular to what we've said so far? We have a faction that wants to,
My first thought is some kind of mafia syndicate analog. Like, is there a different way that Gestalt could be used? Maybe. Like, is there? Because obviously they want to control all these, have the one thing tying them together in some way, shape, or form. Is there another reason? Like, is there another reason that Gestalt could be used for something in particular?
It could be relatively simple, that they're just out here to make money off Gestalt, and they're like cutting, like their whole thing is kind of the laundering, the cutting.
Imagine using it to like effectively do like forgeries of like being able to like manufacture things with like essentially like hijacked materials and in a stabilizer, right?
So like, they're like, that's a pretty nice car you've got there. It would be a shame if somebody were to trick the city into growing another one.
Or like they sell a version of Gestalt that it's like it'll make your hair grow thicker. It'll make you a little bit taller.
The hucksters.
Oh,
yeah,
they're like
hucksters.
snake oil salespeople.
Yeah.
So they
Like this
sell
special DNA we have.
But that would be a
Yeah.
group that like plays really well with like the disenfranchised, right? Because if you have somebody who's stepping in to be like, oh, like you can't, you can barely afford the most basic of gestalts for the sake
Right.
of keeping your like, basic human form intact. Meanwhile, the people up top, they got all sorts of like cool genetic manipulations that they use. They're using it to change like their hair and modify themselves. What if we give you this? But like, it's a good way to, you get money from the people who are desperate for like a little bit of the glamour, but it's probably like really flawed product.
Right.
And they also maybe engage in like smuggling. Who knows?
We need a super bad thing that happens to the city
Yeah.
if this mob takes over. We also need one for what if Redline takes over. I think we all imagine like, they'll own everything and it'll be bad, but like, what does it actually look like specifically? We can answer that kind of later, though. We know that they're bad and we know why they're bad and how they're bad. But for this mob,
I do think Redline, Doug, because honestly, it came up to my head as soon as you said it. Like, I think honestly, if given enough time and power, Redline would probably start doing some really bad stuff of like, oh, we're just gonna like entirely purge out this like older, deeper, flawed section of the city, and you have people there who are like changed by it, and maybe even people who are not fully subsumed, and like, yeah, we'll just wipe them off the board and just.
Oh yeah, they don't care about saving the people who are like part of the city.
Nope. They're just like, no. We got our thing on lockdown. We know what we're doing. We're just gonna wipe that slate clean and move on to other projects. And anything that doesn't catch up to us developmentally gets recycled.
Gotcha. Recycled. Cool. That brings to more clarity what the end game of Redline looks like. What does the end game of this mob look like? They seem particularly short-sighted, so it's fine if the end game of this faction is not something that they are intentionally pursuing.
Yeah, the idea that I don't have anything fully formed, no pun intended, but I was thinking like they get their hands on this stuff, right? And the best way to stretch it, this is kind of leading into the, the 70s drug culture thing is to start cutting it with different things, right?
Right.
And they say this, this does that, but obviously they don't necessarily know what's going to happen when they're cutting this gestalt with some other random bio thing.
I just had the idea of a drug called hive mind, which is like literally the concept of like, doing that biohacking thing of like, and like you can experience the collective they're like in that, like they have that like minor overlap with the one without the full-on body Cronenbergness of being like, you can have your mind overlap by like this some sort of like kind of like drug trade, and then like a sort of like natural consequence, whether it feels like they could pursue this. Imagine like drug lords or just crime bosses in that sense being like, oh yeah, no, we could control a large swath of the population with just by literally influencing their brain chemistry, because they're literally taking substances that we control.
Yeah. Billy, does that jive with what you were putting down?
Yeah, that's definitely I was leaning personally more in the sense that them cutting this stuff up is going to lead to the big bad thing that they don't care about that, right? They just care about making their money and stretching out the gestalt they have. I really like Alex's idea a whole lot, though.
I think that we can do both because, like, this is a society where everybody is using like an EpiPen-like injection thing like very frequently. If you were like, yeah, we're gonna cut Gestalt with heroin, it would be like, yeah, I'm already putting this in my body. So there could be multiple drugs. There could be hive mind. There could be other things with other interesting names
yeah,
that
like
I'm not gonna come up with off the top of my head.
Biomeds.
Yeah.
I like the idea of combining Billy's thought into this as well, where it's like, okay, yeah, what if they're like in their reckless pursuit of their whole like, drug modification thing, as Billy said, like they could be doing stuff that they don't realize will have very bad consequences in the long run.
Especially when you consider that, like, if the people that they are selling drugs to eventually like stop being able to support themselves and get subsumed into the city, well, now somebody who's been on hive mind for the past 20 years is becoming part of the city's DNA. Arthur, do you have anything you want to add? Oh yeah. go for
Another
it.
possibility is that like if you are adding in like you're cutting in some sort of addictive substance into gestalt, like people are going to be taking it more often than they should
Hmm.
and like utilizing it more often than they should, and so it might actually cause like a withering of the city in a
Oh
way,
yeah.
because it's like in addition to controlling whatever is supposed to be happening, it's actually pushing a little bit too far, and it's actually like physically killing off the city.
Oh, it's like you can tell who a like certain like even if it's not just like hive mind, it's just a certain like gestalt junkies are, because like one of like maybe like a long-term symptom is like atrophication, like they have more like live, because like stuff is not developing, it just remains stabilized and exactly in its state, and it eventually like muscular atrophy sets in. And then and that could even reflect in the city. Yeah.
But it's also like if the best gestalt is from the oldest parts of the city and everybody's using the gestalt up, then we're taking this out of the literal marrow of the bones of the city. So you could literally have that be happening to people who use gestalt a lot. You could also have that be happening to people to like the buildings in the older parts of the city. It's like, no, our historical district has been gestalt mined away and it's collapsed or something like that.
Yeah,
Oh
like the
yeah.
literal bones of the building are breaking.
Yeah, that's how you get the crumbling tenements visual. Is
Yeah.
like
Literally
literally
crumbling.
broken down by literally crumbling, or even like yeah, calcification. Um, and what was the other one that I had in mind exactly in line with that? It was uh the concept of like where your district has like scabs, like
Oh yeah.
yeah.
So gross, but definitely something that happens. Do we have a name for this mob? It's okay if the answer is no.
I don't have one. I nothing comes to mind. Yeah.
I don't
I
know
also
if we want to go like straight like the X family, if we want to go like insert name here family, we want to go really old school with it. I mean, it is supposed to be kind of a 70s analog, right?
hmm,
Like a
let's
It's
take our break
Mhm.
okay.
and then we'll start with we'll take our break. We'll start in with the last couple of questions of the city creation and the beginning of the questions of crew creation. And if anybody has a name pop into their head for this mob family, just shout it out.
And that's
Great.
my cue. I'm going to jump in and thanks everybody for hanging out with us. We're going to take a quick break. Everybody wave and we'll see you
Oh,
guys
Sarah,
in
you're
just a few
muted.
minutes. Oh, I wasn't muted on stream, but I forgot to unmute over here.
Nice. All right.
Welcome back. We're in the middle of our session 0 for Machine Impossible, the TTRPG where you play as cyberpunk super spies putting everything on the line to save the city that they love from essentially capitalism. And in our specific case, being subsumed by your city. So we love this city, and the city loves us sometimes a little bit too much. We're going to keep on with our city building questions, but if anything falls into place and you're like, oh, I remember something else that I wanted to say about the property management faction, or oh, I remember what I wanted the name to be for the mob, feel free to just shout that out. I think that we have like one faction that's like clear as day in everybody's heads as the one just completely slaps, and then we have these really cool ideas that I think that we're still munching on with the redlining property management company, terrifying name, and then the mob that we haven't named yet. But our next question to answer is what are 3 major locations in this city? These should be big things that are important to many different kinds of people. For instance, a temple that like thousands of people visit every day, or a skyscraper that is absolutely definitional to the city skyline, or like a port or something like that. So an example of a major location for New York would be the Empire State Building. An example of a major location for Chicago would be the river, or would be like Lakeshore Drive, or would be like the Bean. These are places that if you live here, you know about it, you've visited it. There are no exceptions.
I would like to pitch a location.
Please, please.
A grand plaza called the Escher Plaza. It's just like a huge wide open area, and building growth there is pruned like bonsai trees essentially. So it's all grown in really interesting and like intentional shapes. And so it's like just like a very beautiful wide open space, because I love action movies, those kind of like you got to race across the plaza, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
And you've named it Escher Plaza, so I assume that a lot of these are like kind of, they look sort of impossible.
Yeah.
I like that with what we said about like the striations and the coral kind of material that makes up the city. Does anybody have another major location?
Yeah, I have one in mind. I like the idea of like a like large swath of like nutrient farm kind of thing, where it's like because there's got to be food for people somewhere here, I imagine. And like trying to like orient my brain in the right place, because we're very much like, it's not just flesh, it's like strata, it's all this, but my brain just keeps going, this is called the umbilical, and I'm like, okay, apparently. And just like the concept of like a literal like connective like nutrient based like development farm kind of thing that runs through important parts of the city. That's one of the ideas I had. Yeah,
we can totally go full Ridley Scott and go for could we call it the umbilical? It's a nutrient farm. You said that it runs through the city?
I was thinking that because but I could also see it being something that's underneath, like, and it's just like the umbilical is not necessarily it's the name for the like air quote neighborhood, right? Where it's just like what people call the umbilical is just like this large cavernous spiraling run of nutrient farms.
I'm down to go with whatever you like. Both sound cool for me. It sounds like you have a clearer vision for like this underground concept. And does that underground concept live in one spot, or does it kind of like
I think it truly is just like a running effectively like vessel that has been repurposed for nutrient farming. And also just the societal theme of like, yeah, of course, this extremely important blue collar sort of place is relegated to the under levels, because it's like And it's well, it's a good place for it, but also it's probably not treated very well by the higher ups.
So it's
Kind
an
of like-
underground. Oh yeah, go for it.
I was thinking kind of like Paris sewers, like it's the big round sort of tunnels that just kind of like they could be
Mhm.
traversed, but it's also primarily like for movement of
Mhm.
the nutrients throughout the
Oh,
city.
I actually I do like that too.
What were
yeah.
you saying about a spiral, Alex?
Yeah, just that it just like it just like it runs and curves and moves and spirals around the city, possibly.
Cool. Yeah. Just getting all this down. Cool. All right. So we have the Escher Plaza, a beautiful plaza where building growth is pruned like bonsai. I assume Arthur, that's kind of like centrally located somewhere in the city.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the umbilical and underground spiral network of tunnels that provide food because there's an organ that just like is edible that we keep growing. And that makes sense. Extremely gross, but it makes 100% sense. In my mind, it's like Huel or like
Mm-hmm.
or maybe it's like a kind of like a fleshy pouch that inside of it is like the the Huel or the like
You have the Huel farmers who are literally out there like hacking pustules to
right, they're like
into
throw
like
it
channel
into a
flow
bucket.
of this nutrient ooze. Ugh.
We need a third one.
I was thinking that somebody can help me out if they get anything from what I'm about to say. Has anybody played Dead Space?
Mm-hmm.
You know the marker, like the double
Yeah.
helix looking building
Ooh.
that comes
Yeah.
like the I don't know exactly how to explain it, but I like the idea of a central kind of skyscraper that's this big giant, maybe pruned to perfection double helix that comes up through the center of town, standing larger than most other things, if not everything.
Well, leaning into the concept of like the marker, which is quite distinctly red in Dead Space, is at like the red line like main facilities because
Oh.
it's like this large like spiral helix
Double helix, it's
tower.
DNA.
It maybe even is like genetically modified and stabilized to have like red pulsation or like red coloration that is pronounced in like bioluminescence almost.
Yeah, I like that idea. Like even at night, right? It like we have this such
The red
these
line
purples
tower.
and blues, and then at night, when those kind of dull down because they're not necessarily lit, you got this glowing red, the red line building, right? Everybody knows
Mm-hmm.
about the red line building.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you want to know about it or not is a different story.
I like the idea that this is like one of the oldest buildings in the city.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it goes like far below ground it starts, right?
Oh yeah.
And we just see like what we see is
The top
massive,
of
but this
it.
thing goes way down.
What if I like this idea. I want to add a detail onto it that I just thought of because the city is alive. What would naturally happen is that old things would die. But I assume that part of Redline's whole MO is these parts of the city will never die because we're going to pump it full of gestalt.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the idea of, much like capitalism, people kind of standing on never dying, continuing to accrue power, and just kind of like continue to prop up this crumbling house.
Just remember, kids, no matter how crazy you world build and create vistas unbefore seen, it'll always come back to capitalism.
It'll always come
Yep.
back to capitalism. I mean, by design, we don't step 6 isn't define a resource that is scarce for nothing. I love this. So we have Escher Plaza. I can already see it being like, lots of stair steps of this like multicolored coral stuff and like the yellows and browns and like golds of like the 70s music festival posters going every which way. We've got the umbilical, underground, blue collar jobs, lots of people working all across the city. Probably also a convenient set of avenues to get across the city if you happen to be like oh, I need to use a moving walkway that is going to go for a long stretch of space, get one that runs parallel or alongside the umbilical. And Red Line Tower, you gotta have your megacorp headquartered in a gigantic skyscraper that defines the cityscape. Fantastic. Our next question is our next question is minor locations. Right? So we've done major locations. Those are locations that everybody in the city knows. Now we're going to do minor locations. These are locations that are important to you. And if you're wondering, who is you me, or is you my character? The answer is yes. This is a location that is important to you. It should be something small. It should be like an ancient bookstore, or like a gym where they sometimes play roller derby. A place that means something to you, whether you is you or you is your character.
I really like the idea of there being like, what is the 70s biotech analog for like the Boys and Girls Club? You know what I mean?
Oh, like the
Yeah, the
YMCA.
The
YMCA. Yeah.
conversation
God, I love
pit.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
The
I
conversation pit.
I just like that there's some, like the kids' parents, right, are working at the umbilical or doing whatever, and then the kids after whatever school is, they go and hang out at the conversation pit and they can do like whatever the hell kids do in this place.
I mean, that's one of the profound things about sci-fi and fantasy is that kids do whatever kids do in every universe. They get into trouble and play and do crazy things. Kids are kids. I love I I have run city creation probably close to a dozen times, and nobody has said a YMCA or a Boys and Girls Club. I love this minor location. Very heartwarming. Also, if we imagine a utopia to dystopia meter, I feel like we're hovering more on the side of dystopia than utopia, and it's nice to fill in some of these minor locations as like pick me ups, and I think that is what this is, right, Billy?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going for. I was trying to picture somewhere my character would have been when they were a kid that meant a lot to them.
Oh, that's I love that. Okay, next minor location. And Billy, if you could tell me anything about who runs the conversation pit.
While they're thinking, I will just blurt out. It's somebody called Mama Knowles, Knowles.
Love it.
I'm always drawn, like in every form of media, honestly, to just a good old fashioned dive bar, right? Quiet in a kind of grungy part of the city, but like where the people who are there are just decent fucking human beings. And
Mhm.
it's like you have like the no nonsense, straight give it to you bartender, and just tucked out of the way. Like you stumble into this place at 2 a.m, never having noticed it before, and you have a basket of the wettest but somehow best fries you've ever had in your life, at like that time of day. So just some sort of like divey bar tucked away. I'm imagining in terms of like look, because I very much love living in New York City. I do love some of the cooler like subway stations down here. And so just the kind of concept of like an old, slightly out of like it's unrepaired the our world's equivalent of like that kind of like mosaic like old subway tunnel wall that you get, but it's like it's been renovated and turned into this just kind of out of the way, in Blade Runner fashion, noodle bar that you can sit at, and you can get your nutrient paste and a good drink of something, whatever we have here. But I'm always drawn to a nice dive bar.
When you say slightly unrepaired, for some reason my brain went like, oh, it's like molting. Like
Yeah.
it's got like a reptile that hasn't fully molted yet,
And
and it's still like skins.
it's a
So like,
rare event for it to happen, and it's actually, for a building to mold, like that sounds like, oh, that's pretty, there's probably some like stuff overhang and damage. So I think that the owner has fully leaned into it and added like a 2 to the establishment name, just because like it molted and there's like, fuck it, okay, we have part of the old building here, but we'll
oh
just,
my god.
this is the bar, this is the bar 2. And every time it molts, they add another number, they just increase the number.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So I wrote down wettest fries you've ever had, and then you said like you can get noodles here, you can get nutrient paste here. Do you want to say no to fries, or do you want to have all of that be on the menu?
Well, I want all of that on the menu. And besides, what is a fry but, a cut and oiled, bathed tuber? So I'm sure
Yeah.
there's something that can be grown here that's, I don't know if it's your deep fried ganglia, of some offshoot of the city here, or some actual, other thing. I don't know.
I want to sell you on a la Star Wars. The fries here are blue.
Yeah, I'm into that. I think I'm into
Cool.
that. Yeah, I dig it.
So think of the, I know that there's a 2 at the end of it, but think of the name of the bar as we go to Arthur for the 3rd minor location.
I'm gonna call this location the Lungs. There,
Whoa.
because it's an area, a city that has subterranean areas, there has to
Yeah.
be like airflow going through it.
Oh wow.
And so there's this like, it's almost like a big auditorium where it's helping redirect all that air, but it's like you can feel the city breathing. And so it's this area where people go to like, have big meetings, or like, just like kind of be one with the city in a way of like, you can kind of lose yourself in it. You hear the city breathing and you're breathing with it. And
I think that if this is a, I think that I think that if this is a single location, it has to be a major location, which we can just make a 4th major location. Or if the
okay.
lungs is, if the lungs is something that is many places throughout the city, your character cares very much about one set of lungs.
Sure.
Oh, are lungs this city's versions of parks, like where airflow travels? And so
well,
it's like you have your favorite park.
There are I assume that there are parks on the surface, but this is underground.
Yeah, let's go with this. I like that idea of it being like almost like a underground park almost. I'm gonna go with let's say they're I'm gonna come up with a name. I'll give a specific lungs that it's like,
Okay,
that's
cool.
that area.
So we
Let
know
me
that there are
chew on that for a
lungs
second.
throughout the city, but your character cares a lot about a specific set of lungs. What makes this specific set of lungs unique from the others?
I think that it's in this set of lungs is born from a set of lungs that no longer exist.
Oh,
Kind of that child thing. And so it's some like that, the original lungs were somewhere where my character grew up.
wow.
And so these new ones, it's like it feels like the same sound. It like all of them kind of have almost like their own feel to them, and it's like, because it's from that same offshoot, it's like very familiar.
That's amazing. And I'm almost about to cry. That's so touching. So this new set of lungs grew from a set that your character grew up near.
I think let's go with normally they're named after the neighborhoods that they're in. But this set, it's like specific that they're kind of an offshoot, so they're the Iron Lungs because they're kind
Oh.
of like surviving after the first set is gone now.
That's so good. That's so good.
That's
That
such
is
a
so
good
good.
answer. I feel bad about the schlocky name I came up with for a bar.
No,
No, no, no, no, no.
I was like,
no.
I was
You gotta
like,
share it.
I was gonna say, all right, what if I just go really on the nose and the bar is just called Cronenberg's, and it's just
Hell yeah.
Cronenberg's too.
That's good.
Cronenberg's 2
2
is beautiful, actually.
Yeah, don't give yourself enough credit. That was the chef's kiss. I love it.
That's
You gotta have
Arthur,
like
but Arthur, that was so beautiful, man. That was great.
Berg is BER.
Mhm.
Got it. Hey, I got it right on the first try. Amazing. Okay. Lovely, life affirming, and disturbingly wet.
Mhm.
This is our city in a nutshell. We have one last question, but before we answer it, I'm just going to go through all of our questions just to refresh all of our memories. We are a mountain city. Our aesthetic is 70 music festival posters, biotech, cilia shag carpeting. We're talking psychedelic movie poster aesthetic. We're talking coral organisms with a strata of different colors. We're talking about convex TVs made out of eyeballs and sclera. In addition to moving walkways, you can hop on a drone that is a literal creature like a moth or a butterfly to shuttle you across the city. And we call these drones machines, even though they are clearly animals or their own organisms. There are also pieces of technology that are not their own specific organisms, like our guns, which are kind of like the spine shooters from Halo, just a machine that takes in keratin and turns them into deadly projectiles. As far as denizens go, we are mostly humans, although there's still time to change that. For now, we're all humans here. Although when you think about it, we're all, grafting things onto us, and how human can you really be? Really. Our boundaries are closely hugging the mountains and also digging into them every single which way. The silhouette of the city seen from above is kind of like if you dropped a bunch of gack into this mountain valley, and the buildings autonomously grow. A phenomenal decision that caused a whole bunch of other dominoes to fall. Pruners are constantly cutting away at new growth at the edges of the city to keep the city contained. And our resource helps with that. Gestalt. There's construction grade gestalt that keeps buildings stable. And then there's personal scale gestalt that keeps you from being subsumed by the city. The city is hungry. It loves us maybe a little bit too much. Um, we have three villainous factions. We have the One, a cult that wants Gestalt and wants to hoard it or destroy it or deny it from others so that the city continues to grow rampant and out of control and eats everything. They give us Cenobite vibes. They're very H.R. Geiger, Junji Ito, Phyrexins from MTG. We love to hate them. We have, speaking of loving to hate them, Redline Property Management, a megacorp that came from the original people who settled here. They're like a fascist HOA. They own a lot of the oldest buildings. They're really good at telling you legally why you have to vacate your building or why they have to prune your building or why they have to do a bunch of awful demolition. And they don't care about saving the people that have been subsumed as part of the city along the way. They'll just recycle them. And then lastly, still unnamed, but we have a mob that sells Gestalt cut with drugs. These are snake oil salespeople that will promise you the world, and maybe in the short term you'll get what you paid for, but in the long term you'll also get what you paid for. They're good at targeting desperate people. They sell different kinds of drugs cut with Gestalt, including hive mind, but they don't realize that or maybe they do realize and don't care. The long-term effects of this are catastrophic. It causes the city to absorb drug-addicted citizens. It causes too much Gestalt to be harvested from the oldest parts of the city, causing the city to wither and die. And then we just went through our major and minor locations. Escher Plaza, the Umbilical, Red Line Tower, the Conversation Pit, Cronenberg's 2, and the Iron Lungs. With that, we come to our final question, which, as always, is what's our city's name and what is our demonym? A demonym is what we call ourselves if we're from the city. New Yorkers, Glaswegians, Chicagoans. That's what a demonym is. So, what's the name of our city and what do we call ourselves? Feels like a big question with a lot of
Yeah,
pressure on it, but
I'll throw one out there. City of I'll throw a new on there. The city of New Harvest. So we'd be
ooh,
harvesters, new harvesters.
ooh.
I
Oh,
had
I
something in
latch
a
onto that.
similar vein. I was thinking fecundity,
Oh,
the city of fecundity.
I just want to check. Feel free to say no.
we'd be feckers.
We could, well, fecundity is very close to fecund city. If you want to do something
Fecund City.
cute and punny,
Oh,
which
that's
I
also
think,
good.
uh, because fecundity is like the noun of an adjective, fecund,
Fecund, yeah, fecund.
fecund is a word. So if
Yeah.
it was fecund city, fecund means producing or capable of producing an abundance of offspring or new growth. Semicolon,
Honestly,
fertile.
I as Jacob pointed out, like fecundity being close to fecund city is into calling it fecund city. And then we'd be feckers.
Feckers is funny. You know,
Cool.
I kind of love it.
So this is fecund city, and we are feckers.
Feckers.
I'm spelling it with two K's, even though fecund city is with a C.
I'm with that. I gotta say, like, I was like, oh yeah, like, yeah, I was like, okay, cool. New Harvest seems like a fun idea. The second you added like wordplay into it, I'm like, all in. Yep, we're doing it.
Cool. Well, amazing. We have fecund city. It is gross and also lovely.
Beautiful.
Well, we've got to move on to making our crew now.
Really
Yeah.
quick, Alex mentioned having an idea for the mob family.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yes, please.
I have a possible name. So two directions. If we were taking the direction of like, oh, a classic mobster family, I have an option. But if we were going into the idea of just like a gang, like a drug gang kind of thing, I also have one. But like with mob, the word zygote popped to mind, and I was like, okay, but like if I was to make it like kind of like a schlocky 70s appropriate like Godfather kind of thing, the Zygozy crime family.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll type that the way I envision it to be like Zygozy. I spelled there with three Z's technically total, but the Zygozy crime family.
Hard to have too many Z's.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
I at the end. Love that.
Yeah, Italiano kind of flavor there.
Zagozzi.
I want the like ironic, because if they show up, it's actually quite awful. But like the ironic, cute name for them is that they're the Zy guys.
The Zy guys. Well, that's the enforcers they send after you. Is their Zy guys?
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know if this is a name that they use themselves, or if they do use it, they only use it because they know that like it's funny that
because it's ironic at this point.
Yeah, it's funny if we give ourselves a cute name, because when we show up, we're probably going to kill you. I love that. So we're gonna move on to crew creation. And this is where we talk about, hey, who are we? Who are we? Who are we playing? So Circuit is a group of self-organized citizens risking arrest, assault, and capture to gather intel on what our enemy organizations are up to and how to stop them. No single Circuit member holds more authority than any other, but when the need arises, somebody will often volunteer to take point on a particular issue. These are usually normal people. These are bus drivers, cashiers, bartenders, and social workers who have built trust and contacts over years of community leadership, just like real world citizen-led advocacy groups here on Earth. You and your crew are known as circuit breakers. You have the skills, the experience, and the cyberware needed to volunteer for dangerous covert operations that others can't undergo. Your identities are known only to a select few circuit members who give you your intel and send you on missions should you choose to accept them. So our first question here is to name one or more members of circuit that are known and trusted by your crew. And we can talk about them a little bit. How do we know them? How do they convince you to join circuit, etc.?
I got an idea for one. I have the idea of like a guy who like a nutrient farmer, guy who works in the umbilical. Everyone just calls him Packer. That might be relative to his name or maybe not, but he's sort of like, you know, grizzled, old, been doing it for a long time. And it's kind of like one of those like impromptu, like union kind of like arrangers of like,
Got you.
he has like, you know, he has all of the people behind him, his workers, you know, he looks after his own, and, you know, very much grizzled, been in the game a long time. And I imagine he's like, he, you know, he would hear a bunch of stuff because he has all, like all the workers at his back.
I love that. We can go with Packer, but if anybody has any other ideas for essentially key NPCs that are involved with circuit, feel free to shout them out.
Yeah, I'll go full circle and say that Mama Knowles, who runs the conversation pit,
Mama
is
Knowles.
a big circuit member.
Nice. Love it.
I love the idea of like a low level red line genetic accountant. It's just a title that popped into my head. But like someone who like can like leak company data, or like just someone who's like just in like foot just in the door enough to get something of value, but not like on anyone's radar.
Nice. Let's give them a name.
They could just be Tim in accounting.
Tim from accounting.
Yeah. I was gonna say Eugene because the gene pun, but yeah.
Eugene's
man.
fun.
I
That's
like
good.
Eugene.
Yeah.
Eugene does like, for some reason it feels very 70s to me too.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
So we have Packer. I just from the title, I assume Mama Knowles is she, her. Packer, you refer to Packer as he. And Eugene, what are Eugene's pronouns?
They, them, I think.
They, them. Packer, we have grizzled. I know that Packer is older. Mama Knowles, I assume that Mama Knowles is also older.
Yeah, ancient.
I'm
ancient
getting
lady.
Because we've said low level, I'm getting young for Eugene.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think like young, but not like enough to the point where it'd be like ridiculous for them to be there.
Yeah, something like mid-20s.
Yeah, I think that
20s.
works.
Any like fantastical physical augmentations that you want any of these NPCs to have?
I think Packer's entire like left, you know, forearm up has been, you know, genetically like reshaped into a harvesting tool for the umbilical.
Cool. Anything from Mama Knowles?
How does it sound that she is just an old lady?
That's
you know what I mean?
I'm fine with
like
that.
no bio stuff. She's like just a really old woman.
Because like the more we've talked about like the biohacking in this, I'm getting big like plasmid vibes from BioShock, where it's, you know, so and they have people who are just completely normal, but then there are the people who can summon bees from their hand.
Bees from your hand, yeah. And then is Eugene rocking any modifications?
I think by company policy, you have to be.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I think he had. Go ahead, Arthur. Actually,
I think he is his he's like preternaturally fast, like just a little bit fast, like eyes moving faster, that kind of thing, where it's like enhanced for data computation. Like
He has
He can type really quick.
Yeah,
he
exactly.
has additional sinews like that allow
Gotcha.
him to like move very quickly.
Yeah.
I also like the idea just because I'm picturing a very like nebbish accountant, Coke bottle lenses kind of thing, but he has like the like modified, almost like television like, you know, like sclera bulb eyes.
Oh, larger eyeballs.
Almost bug like at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, just as a reminder, we said they them for Eugene.
Yep, they them, yeah.
So we've got Packer, Grizzled Nutrient Farmer, Union Manager, entire left form as a harvesting tool, Mama Knowles, just an old lady, runner of the conversation pit, no bio stuff going on with Mama Knowles, and then Eugene. They are a low-level genetic accountant for Redline. I love that title. Mid to late 20s, preternaturally fast and twitchy in the eyes and fingers, and larger eyeballs than you would normally have. Cool. Those are our circuit members that we know of, just starting out. Um, we're gonna skip. Well, but yeah, let's really quickly do. We as a group, is our crew a crew that is been running in one form or another with circuit for a long time or a short time? This is, don't overthink this question. This is just for our knowledge of the history of this crew. Are we veterans or are we new to the scene?
Honestly, everything that's been set up, particularly with what Billy mentioned about the character concept, being in the conversation pit. I think we've been with Circuit from the start. I think because if Mama Knowles is involved and therefore whatever's going on there, yeah, I think we've been around with them.
Cool. If nobody has any objections, I will go with that. And then this does not mean that your character has to be old. It just means that the crew that you're a part of is long storied. We're gonna jump into the real meat and potatoes now. We're gonna go to bonds. Bonds are what make our crew like a second family. We are each of us going to choose one of the bonds that I'm about to list. And even though you are going to be choosing one bond, you're going to end up with more than one bond on your sheet, because if I choose Alex's character for a bond and then we talk about it, I add it to my character sheet, Alex adds it to his character sheet, and so on and so forth. I'm going to list the bonds off now. We have Bad Blood. Pick another crew member. You two used to be inseparable. What happened to drive you apart? What's the thing that gives you hope that one day you'll be inseparable again? So Bad Blood is, you had a falling out, but key to all of these bonds is that there's a reason for you guys being together. You do have a light at the end of that tunnel where like you do eventually want to be inseparable again. We have besties. That's just the beginning of Bad Blood. You are inseparable. Pick another crew member. They're your best friend forever. Are you family? Are you coworkers? How did you two form this unbreakable bond? We have Hero. Pick another crew member. They're your hero. What is it about them that inspires you? It could be something that they did a long time ago or something that they do every day. Something small that they do every day. Something huge they did a long time ago. Something like that. Lovers is pretty self-explanatory. You pick another crew member and they're romantically involved with you. Mentor means you pick another crew member and they know something that you still need to learn. And you don't need to be older than the character that you pick for them to be your mentor, as anybody who has ever taught their parents how to print a document can attest. We have sorry, we have rivals. Pick another crew member, they're your rival. What do you clash over? And in what ways do you push each other to be better than you would otherwise be? This is the shonen anime trope. Who's the Sasuke to your Naruto? Tragedy. Pick another crew member. You both survived something terrible, either together or separately. What was it? So this could be like, oh, your character and my character, we both lived through the same the one attack, or your character and my character were both laid off from the same job. It doesn't have to be a huge tragedy, but you both lived through something. It also doesn't have to be something that you both lived through face to face. It's like, oh yeah, I remember you and I happened to both be really negatively affected by the 2008 housing market crash, and we trauma bond over something. So who would like to go first? Oh, sorry. One last thing. We don't have names for our characters yet. That's fine. That's by design. We are going for this process of like our characters kind of resolve from the mist here. So if you need to name another person's character, you just say Arthur's character or Billy's character. And if you haven't already, everybody who is playing, open up that digital character sheet, and this is where we will start to edit that document.
Billy, how would you feel about picking tragedy? And we're both from the same neighborhood where the original lungs were from. And there was some sort of, maybe like it got wiped out by Redline. And that was like, it was sort of you need to get out today because we are getting rid of this neighborhood.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's great. I like that a lot.
Okay, so Arthur is picking tragedy, and Arthur and Billy's characters are bonded by both from the neighborhood that was closed by the Red Line Property Management Company, which makes it all the more bittersweet that the Iron Lungs is your minor location. Okay, who would like to go next?
Arthur, I've got an idea here. I'm thinking like rivals, like the concept of like clashing over. So I'm trying to think of how to phrase this because it came to me like obviously you want to be on at least some same like aligned level of interest, but I'm thinking like I am from a comparatively better situation than you come from, and like I'm very much like I threw off that yoke to do a good cause, and so you're very much like, but you still came from that background and therefore like butting heads over it. And like even so, like we're pushing each other to be better than we would otherwise be. So I see that like that was like almost like a mutual of like I'm pushing to be more zealous, or rather you're pushing to make I'm more zealous in the pursuit of this, just to be like it's more than just a statistic, and you're probably even more like begrudgingly like, well, okay, not everyone from this walk of life here sucks as much as I think they do. That's just like a loose idea. I'm not exactly 100% sure where that like that divide might be, so I could definitely use some advice on that.
Well, and I think that might be something we can shake out over the next week once we start to farm out character. But I like the idea of being rivals with you. I think that sounds great.
There's also the like in media, it is often a theme that the person that does that good work but comes from that richer background is, by the nature of how they grew up, not as connected to the people that they are helping, to the community that they are serving. So it'd be like, oh, I'm like,
I think I'm more detached from like the community side of things. It's like you're doing the right thing, but you're like you have the blinders on this other facet that matters, and that like is kind of anathema to your whole thing.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
Probably with that detachment comes like you said, a zealotry that is like, I get stuff done, but it's like, whoa, are you thinking this through?
I think that I can maybe use that to come up with my bond. Alex, for your character, I was thinking mentor, and I was thinking that I kind of have those same blinders on, coming from the same place that Arthur's character does, right? Like, and maybe Alex, your character can try to teach my character that like it's not like face first rush into it, right? Like it's you got to think a little bit more. You have to slow down. You have to really analyze. I think that your detachment can maybe help him learn to analyze a little bit more instead of just throw himself face first into whatever his mission is.
I had this inkling of an idea way before we were streaming, and I was just like, I wonder if I'm going to end up playing the brainy type in this situation. I'm like, yeah, well, yeah, definitely. Just if we have naturally reached that territory, so I think that's really cool.
So Billy has chosen mentor. Alex's character thinks things through more than Billy's character. Billy's character often throws themselves face first into situations, and Alex's character is helping them think through things.
I'm really into that.
Cool. I have that all down. On to our next question. This is a fun one. They're all fun ones. This one's particularly fun. Troubles. Each player is going to choose one of the following troubles for their character. For those watching the stream, there are resources in this game that power our special abilities. There's 4 of them. There's Fury, there's Armor, there's Flow, and there's Influence. It's not important what they do right now. What is important is whenever your character's trouble creates trouble for you while you're on a mission, you get to gain 2 resources of one of those 4 types and 2 resources of any other of those 4 types. So if one of my favorite games is Spirit of the Century and then later Fate Core. And if you've played either of those games, you know that they're very much in the business of bribing you with points to do juicy character work and be like, yeah, I poke the huge guy at the bar and say, that's my seat, and we get into a huge brawl, and that's not what we're here to do, but it's what my character would do. God damn it. And now I get paid in resources. So the troubles here are we're each going to pick one. Heart of Gold. Whenever you see someone in trouble, you get the urge to help, even when keeping your head down would be the smarter option. Magpie, whenever you see something valuable, you get the urge to steal it, even when it isn't important to your current mission. Marked, one of our enemy factions knows your face and has put a bounty on your head. How did you make them so angry? So we meet again. You have a complicated past with an enemy spy. What is your history with them? Why do they keep showing up at the worst possible moment? If you have watched many of the Mission Impossible movies, this is all over that film franchise. And then finally, vendetta. It's exactly what it sounds like. You have a vendetta against one of the enemy organizations. How did they earn it? Whenever you see a member of that group, you have the urge to become violent, even when keeping a cool head would probably be the smarter option.
I think I'm absolutely going to take Marked. I love the idea of, like, especially based on what we were talking about just now with the bonds, like Redline has a fucking bounty on me because I'm probably took some company secrets in my rebellion, and using that same kind of like methodology against them.
So I'm also getting from that you maybe used to work for Redline.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
Or was otherwise utilized by them, may not have been a voluntary employment.
That's also true. So you stole important files and information from them. You don't need to answer right now, but think about what that important proprietary information was, and is it like they want it back, or is it like they don't want it to leak, or is it that you already have leaked it and they just hate your guts for doing that? Doesn't have to be something that you come back with right now. Arthur, how about you?
I would like to take So We Meet Again.
Ooh. Tell me about this enemy spy. They can work for one of our enemy organizations, or they can work for a still more secret spy organization, or you can leave it up to me and leave your character in the dark.
I think that what I would love to do is, I think we they're another person who came from that same area, and they went down a different path of joining the one, almost like retaliatory to Redline
Oh, that's
taking
very
out that
juicy.
neighborhood.
Very, very juicy.
Yeah.
That is
But I
so
think like
juicy.
it's I think it's fun if we were childhood sweethearts and then we were like we split paths, and it's one of those things where it's like you see each other and it's like you are on such a different path from me, and it was literally just kind of the way the cards fell.
Arthur, you just keep dropping bombs on
For
like
real.
my heartstrings. It's like, I
But
think
also,
I
like-
like the idea of maybe the most tragic thing I could say
Yeah.
in this moment. Like,
Talk
oh
about
my
like
God, my
talk
heart.
about like a toxic ex though, because like literally the one is like integrate all and just being like we are going to be together,
Right. It was
bound
like-
forever.
Exactly. We'll be together again.
We'll
Yeah.
be together again. It's
That's
like,
so funny.
I'm
so
so
good.
sorry. I'm so sorry for the way things ended. It's like, do you think that things have ended? Oh, like this is all coming back. This is all
That's
coming
hilarious.
back.
This
I
is
love that.
incredible. This is really good.
So
That's why they keep showing up, because they're like, honey, it's just a matter of time.
give me oh my God, yeah. But they don't want to kill you because they're like, killing you would be a waste, right? Like,
Mhm.
so I would like you to give me, doesn't have to be this second. I would like you to give me a name, a sort of a vibe and aesthetic, like what kind of Cenobite do they look like, and maybe one or two cyborg modes that you want them to specialize in. Or you can also leave, I would like you to come up with the name for sure, but you can ask me to come up with these things if you want.
Okay.
Cool. So we're to you, Billy. What is your trouble?
Oh yeah, this one's easy for me. It's Heart of Gold.
Heart of Gold. I was going to say, for your character who like loves to rush into problems and solve them, it's got to be like either Heart of Gold or Vendetta. So
Yeah.
Heart of Gold.
I think growing up with all like the other kids who either didn't have parents or their parents were too busy, you know, he was kind of a star pupil for Mama Knowles, so he kind of took on her nurturing ideals. She really raised him, or her, whoever I'm going to play. Who knows?
Raised by Mama Knowles. Amazing. Also kind of heartbreaking. Next is backgrounds. We've already kind of touched on some of these, so this should go pretty quickly. A background is something that you choose, and it's just kind of a little bit of extra flavor, something to distinguish your character from the others. We in this game, we roll 2d6 for we roll base 2d6, and your cybernetic modifications and enhancements add dice to that roll. But that means that even one die up or down can really make or break whether you succeed or not. Your background and anything that gives you advantage on a roll gives you a die. Your background is going to give you advantage on rolls that it feels like it would give you an advantage on. It's going to give you a disadvantage on rolls that it feel like it would detract from. So like celebrity, you could choose as a background. And hey, I'm trying to convince people that I am important and should be here. Celebrity comes into play here. Take an extra die. I'm trying to get through this crowd of people unnoticed. Celebrity is going to take a die away from you there. I'm going to read through the list of example backgrounds in a second, but just know that you can always write your own. So celebrity, aristocrat, gearhead, very different kind of concept in this biotech world. Street urchin, police officer, thief, mob thug. And of course, like I said, you can write in your own. We might edit on the fly some backgrounds that are too niche, that they're not coming into play often enough, or so expansive that you're getting a free die on everything.
I have an idea.
Yeah,
because I came up with the term genetic accountant for Eugene. I am like, okay, what are some cool red line other type, and the idea of like a genetic redistributor,
Yeah.
like that kind of concept of just, you know, like what is this world's version of like a cybernet infrastructural person? It's like, well, someone who can probably redistribute genetic material
Yeah.
in a scientific setting, but that was then. This is now. We're very much on the lam from that. So
you used to be really in the like building modification.
yeah, genetic construction. Oh, actually, I like saying genetic construction a lot, so I'll say genetic construction.
Cool. Cool. Okay, who would like to go next?
Do you have anything, Arthur? I can jump in if you were still thinking.
I can go.
Go for it. Yeah, go for it.
I would love to have a background as a pruner.
Ooh.
Maybe not currently anymore because of his activities with Circuit,
Yeah.
but formerly at least.
I mean, this can be you can always have your background be something that you used to do. Like if you want your background to be like a cop, you do not have to have your character be a cop. But also if you want to be like, I'm a pruner during the daytime, but like then I go on missions at night, that is totally within bounds. So you were killing the city every day for your day job, just like on the outskirts of the city. You probably meet a lot of interesting people, literally people who live their life on the outskirts of the city in the marginalia of society. You probably see some really wild shit because if you're pruning the edge of the city, or are you a pruner at the edge of the city, or are you a pruner like in the center of the city?
I was thinking the edge of the city.
The wildest thing that we've it's Zerg creep and who knows what,
Yeah.
just like coming out of the genetic muck. Absolutely wild. Can't imagine that your character isn't suffering PTSD from that. Surely not. Billy, what's yours?
Yeah, I was thinking of street urchin off the list. Artery urchin. I don't know what you want to call it.
Whoa.
But
I
I was
do
kind of
want to
thinking of
call it
that.
artery urchin. Thank you for the option.
In fact, yes, we're going to. Yeah,
I will take it. I don't need to see what's behind door number 2.
That is perfect because door number 2 was a brick wall, so that works out very well for me. I like that.
Lovely. A genetic construction, a pruner, and an artery urchin. Absolutely fucking wild. I love it. Okay. We only have 2 more questions, and they're pretty quick. The next question is the most important question in the entire setup of the game. For each of you, why does your character love this city? Why would they do anything to defend it?
I think for me at least, there is something truly beautiful about a living city. And the thing is, at the moment, things are more parasitic than symbiotic, but there is like a natural state, a life that can be had here in balance. Like there is beauty here, but over cultured beauty is artificial. And therefore, like there is a balance that can be struck. He sees it, even if he knows that it's like beyond his grasp right now.
Yeah.
I think my character. Oh, you can go, Billy.
Oh no, let's keep the same order. You go, Arthur. It's totally fine.
Okay. I think my character. It's one thing to feel like you have a place in this, to have a place in the city. It's like you are part of it, and I think for this character, it is like the city is a part of them because they're interacting with like all these like growing parts and the really like organic stuff. It's like a second arm, you know.
I mean, your character might literally have a second arm because of stuff that happened with the city. This is a place where the city is a part of me can be a literal statement.
Mm-hmm.
And Billy.
Yeah, mine is once again pretty easy. It's the people, right? I love the community here, how they rise up, how they grow, just like the city. It's the community. That's what I love about it. How they overcome, they grow, just like the actual city.
They grow and overcome obstacles just like actual city. Our metaphors, our metaphorical language just works differently when the city can move of its own accord. Like normally what you just said, Billy, is reversed. Just like, yeah, the city can grow and overcome obstacles just like its citizens. It's like we're flipping that actually. Okay. Finally, and if you want to hold this for until next week, that's totally fine. What are your characters' names and pronouns? Describe what they generally look like.
Actually, yeah, I had it because I'm just taking the surname of a character from Videodrome, Ren with two N's, he, him, and truly just looks like a dude on the run, right? Like haggard, like dark circles under his eyes, little sallow skinned. Like this is like the like probably like head to toe like boiler suit kind of like thing going on. I imagine very much like a dude who moves around spaces constantly like looking over his shoulder to see if he's being like followed.
Any notable like biotechy appendages or things going on with their face?
I think in a similar way to Eugene again, since I'm establishing that Ren has worked at Redline, I do think he has
twitchiness.
There's a twitchiness to him, but I think the most visibly changed one would be the fact that like I actually think like he has like a slight undercut thing going on one side of his head, but like you can see that the skin there is very much like it has grown in like more like synthetic like patterns to suggest like some sort of like augmentation or like restructuring of how his like brain is delivered like oxygen and like blood and just information and stuff like that.
If you had to describe the pattern,
I mean, I think he's got to go with like Nautilus spirals, like
like in the skin.
Yeah.
Very Junji Ito, of course.
Yeah, might as well.
Okay. Ren. We have Ren. Arthur and Billy. Do you have an appearance and pronouns for your character?
I'm going with the name Harlan Gentz. I can put that name in chat. He, him. And Harlan is just like a huge dude. He's the kind of guy that you see almost exclusively in a sort of like a work suit, like blue, just like zip up kind of work suit.
Just like Ren, a boiler suit.
A boiler suit, yeah. And I think that his body modifications, they may like in passing you might not notice them, but they're the kinds of things where it's like part of his job is literally kind of pushing back against the city, and so like kind of augmented muscles. His hands are bigger than most people's hands, and like that's the kind of detail you may not notice, but then you like look at his hands and you're like, you could palm a basketball easily.
Like you've got quite a grip there.
Yeah. Let's see. Chat.
And you don't
Yeah,
have to have
that's how.
all of the details here tonight. You can totally come back next week and be like, actually, also Harlan has this going on. Okay, Billy.
Yeah, I'm going to play Roger Lonsdale called Edge.
I love it.
As for what he looks like, I think he's kind of tall and thin. I might amend this later, like next week when we play, but
Sure.
for now, I kind of am thinking that he has some kind of like Kruger-esque like
Wow.
bone claw blade thing, you know what I mean, on both hands. And that would be like the blade mode kind of deal if we're talking mechanically. But other than that, his look, yeah, tall, thin. He kind of dresses a little. He's still very poverty looking, I suppose. Maybe not the overalls or anything like that, but like old clothes, out of style. Not the maybe some of the glamour, not some of the glamour stuff we might see in our 70s biopunk thing we're doing.
Yeah. No sequined bell-bottom jeans or anything like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. He's saving up for him.
Very dangerous to go to a disco with bone claws.
Yeah, the pointing thing.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Obviously, if you want to change the like aesthetic and appearance, that's totally fine. The last thing we're going to do on this stream is build our characters, and I'm it's okay if you change these two, but ideally we don't change these between now and the next week, just because I'm going to be building a session. I'm going to be building a mission for us to play through on Friday. And I'm going to be keeping your choices in mind. So we're building level 3 characters. This next part's going to go very quickly. And we're looking at all of the different cybernetic modifications and cyborg modes. It sounds like you've all gotten a chance to look through the PDF. Take a second now to kind of finalize what you're thinking. Edit the second page in the spreadsheet that you have in front of you. And while you're going through that, I'll just describe for the benefit of anybody who's watching the stream that this is a process where you have install points and energy points. The install points represents the modifications that are in your cyborg's body, and the energy represents the energy that you have to power those modifications with. Critically, in this game, you always have more modifications than you have power to power them. We've got 8 cyborg modes, 2 attack modes, 2 defense modes, 2 mobility modes, and 2 hacking modes. They each have 5 abilities. If you're doing the math, that's 40 total abilities in the game, which were really fun to balance because you can hop between all of these abilities at a moment's notice by shifting your energy from ability to ability. So when you install your first modification in, let's use blade mode, a mode that it sounds like Roger Lonsdale is going to be investing in as Edge. You, at your first ability, you have the ability to manifest blades or shoot blades out of your hands. Melee ranged attacks, we don't really like make a mechanical difference between them in character building. But your blade mode, you can manifest blades, you can slash people. At the very first ability, you get the ability to accrue one of those resources, Fury. As you attack, you can unleash Fury, allowing you to make additional attacks from combat. It's like the Berserker Barrage cyborg mode. Level 2 gives you something extra. Level 3 gives you something extra. Level 4, level 5, something extra. When you install the first point of blade mode, you go down 1 install point. That's gone forever. You don't get them back. If you spend another install point on blade mode, you get the second one. You can't skip them or anything like that. So we're building level 3 characters. We have 5 install points to spread amongst the different cyborg modes. You can go 3 points deep in blade mode and 2 points deep in hammer mode, the other attack mode, and just go all out attack. And you'll have no defenses. You could have 3 in blade mode and 2 in shield mode, a mode that lets you project like hollow barriers and protect yourself and protect your friends. You get the idea. You can go deep or you can go wide. Your energy works the same way as your install points do. You spend an energy, you get to turn on that first ability of blade mode. Spend a second one, you get to turn on the second ability of blade mode. Again, no skipping. And again, you don't have as many energy as you have install points. So while you might have 5 total install points, we only have 3 energy. And you can move your energy around in the middle of missions. So you're like, oh, now I need more attack power. Good thing I invested in attack power. Oh, I need to be able to get out of this situation really quickly. It'd be really great if I could turn invisible. Good thing I invested in camo mode. It lets me turn invisible or pretend to be other people. I can move an energy into camo mode right at the time that I need it, disguise myself as somebody else, walk through the store, nobody is any the wiser. So that's the kind of game that we're playing here. In a 007 movie, James Bond gets given a bunch of gadgets. In our game, you are the bag of tricks. So with that out of the way, who's done allocating their install points?
Yeah, I kept mine pretty simple.
Cool.
I allocated 3 points into chisel mode and 2 into jet mode. Kind of fit with the vibe I had there because doing the sort of biohacking and construction, chisel mode felt appropriate. And then kind of matching Eugene's, like the twitchiness, the enhanced speed felt right to have the jet mode stuff.
Cool. So you're good at hacking objects or creatures that are analogous to objects, and you're good at getting in and out of situations. You don't have many points in attack or defense, but you can still attack and defend. As I said before, you're always going to start with 2d6 in anything.
Yeah, very much a guy who is probably on the very verge of experiencing like fighting, like more so the brains.
Cool. Who would like to go next? Arthur, you're muted.
Yep. Just had that realization as I was talking. I can go next. I did a bit of a split on mine. I took 3 in shield mode, 1 in chisel, and 1 in hammer.
Cool. Tanky.
Going for sort of tanky control.
But especially with hammer mode, you get to accrue that fury and then unload it all at once. We'll see this when we play our mission, but every mode spends that resource in a different way. And fury is all about, if blade mode is about making 1,000,000 attacks in one turn, hammer mode is about, I'm gonna get you. You get to do guaranteed. You get to cash in your fury for guaranteed successes on your rolls in an attack roll. So slowly but surely you build up this momentum, and then you get to just wham, unload on somebody, either in melee or in range. Okay, and Billy for the final character.
Yeah, so 2 in blade mode.
Ooh.
I think we have 5, right?
We have 5 total.
2 in blade mode, 2 in tank mode, and 1 in jet mode.
Cool. This is always cool. Not to lead the witness, but whenever people put tank mode and jet mode together, they tend to be like, can I charge through this wall? It's like, yeah, I will let you charge through this wall. All of these descriptions are online. I'm looking at an ad right now, so I don't know if it's also in the stream, but the descriptions for these modes are on our itch page, and I think also maybe on our +1 exp page. Tank mode is about being like Colossus from X-Men. You get to like sheathe yourself in armor, and jet mode is obviously about going fast. So people in playtests have been like, oh, we don't have a hacker to get us through this vault door. But what we do have is a very fast moving, very heavily armored object. Can I use my forehead? Like, okay, yeah, let's go. Let's do it. Some walls are built to withstand foreheads, though. Okay. We started at oh god, when we started at 6:30 my time. We've been going for what is math?
A little over 2.5 hours, I think.
2.5 hours. So this is what would, if you were playing Machine Impossible at home with your buds, this would be the first session. You would do an entire session that's just the setup. But our goal in building this game was that we had a great time. You are allowed to say no. It's good data if the answer is no, but did y'all have a good time?
I had a great time.
Oh yeah, I did
This
not
was a lot of
expect us
fun.
to end up where we did when we started.
Not at all. Yeah.
It's always the city creation. Billy and I love storytelling. Billy and I talk a lot about our favorite TVs and movies and what we think works and what we think doesn't work, and we just fall into deep conversations about world building and like building out this questionnaire. And if there's one thing that we're going to tout as like we're going to pat ourselves on the back, is like the questionnaire, as simple as it is, it works really well. Just getting people on the same page, asking a bunch of general questions about like, hey, where are we? And then you just hit them with the really just two main questions that make the whole thing sing. Put a resource in scarcity, give us some villains that want to hoard that resource, and you got it. That's your formula. I've never seen this I've never seen a group make a city that doesn't totally freaking bang and you want to jump into it immediately. This one is particularly insidious and particularly dare I say moist, like a cake. I'm gonna be so excited to cook up a cool mission for y'all, and that's coming up next week. Anything you guys want to leave us with?
I'll just throw out there that I'm a big fan of Microscope as an RPG, and this like world creation stuff was checking all the boxes of being like, this is why I love the collective world building and the free form of it. And so this, there were some, you pointed out earlier, there were some really great dominoes that fell. So I just wanted to shout that out because that ruled.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I listened to the Vintage RPG podcast episode about this game while I was
thank
reading.
you.
And I just wanted to point this out too, because I experienced the exact same thing when I was reading, and I buzzed out laughing when I was listening to the episode. The art in this book is incredible because it's all photographs that have been edited to kind of have this incredible feel. The world creation photo is so mind-bending to me, and I was staring at it while listening to the episode, and I was like, I still don't understand what I'm looking at. And when it finally clicks, it's like it makes complete sense. It was just a funny thing that like I experienced that when I was reading it too, and it was just, I wanted to give a shout out to the art because this book is beautiful.
Yeah, the layout's really good.
Thank you so much. The layout, we had two amazing layout artists working with us on this book. Sean Patrick Kane kind of came in and much like the marrow in our city, laid the bones, the framework for the PDF. Sadly, we weren't able to continue working with Sean Patrick Kane. Sean had some things come up, and then we found Fox Smith to complete the skeleton and fill it out. And Fox killed it. And yeah, that the world creation photo, Billy and I were like, this is a cool, I wonder if anybody else will be as like mind twisted as we are looking at this thing. And apparently everybody kind of sees like this. You gotta buy the. Well, actually, you don't have to buy the PDF. This is also on the itch page, but you gotta check it out.
I'm gonna join us from the voice from beyond. Ooh, and thank everybody for playing Machine Impossible, and thanks for making this really weird world that we are. I'm so excited to know what happens and how the characters interact. I think it's gonna be sick as hell. For folks watching or now or later, go ahead and check out that link in the bottom right, ttrpg.link/machine impossible, where you can do just that. Check out the cool art in the game and make your own strange gestalt filled world. We are going to hold off on any further adventures in this game until next Friday, the 16th, where we will bring back this crew of circuit breakers and see what lies in store. So we don't have a solid outro here at +1, so I'm just going to encourage everybody to wave at the camera until we leave. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you so much for playing, and I look forward to next week.